Welcome back, family, to the IOA podcast, a space where breath meets belonging and where we pause, reflect, and remember that healing is not a destination, it's a rhythm. I'm your host, Dr. Malika, and I'm super excited to have you back here with me today. And I want to shout out and welcome all of those who are listening to me on WDJY 99.1 FM in the city of Atlanta. Super excited to welcome you all to the journey and to the resilient family. So let's move into talking about what we're going to get into this week. We will be talking about moving with the wind. And so this episode is titled The Wind, Surrender, Voice, and the Breath of Change. So the wind is invisible, but it moves everything that it comes in contact with. It carries pollen across the ocean and moves clouds through the sky. It sweeps away what's been lingering for too long. And if we listen carefully, we realize the same thing happens in us. When we surrender to change instead of resisting it, something in us shifts too. So let's look at African cosmology. When we look at African cosmology, wind is something that is considered to be sacred. It is the spirit in motion. In Yoruba culture, Imi means breath and it means soul. In many traditions, the first breath that a child takes is seen as the arrival of life itself. And when that breath leaves, it is said that the spirit returns back to its source. If we were to put this in context of spiritual tradition, we look at it from a biblical standpoint that the psyche means soul in Greek, and we understand that the breath that was breathed into Adam was what made it or made him a living soul. And so that is what we're talking about. We are talking about the fact that that breath, that wind, is what we need to be able to surrender to because it is the wind that moves us into our change and the different spaces that we need to be in. In order for us to find our voice again, we have to be able to understand that there will be a time where silence is part of the process. And we have to remember that breathing during that time is more than just a reflex. It is our sacred ritual of trusting the process of what we are going through. So let's take a deep breath now. I want you to inhale through your nose, hold it, exhale through your mouth. And so now that we've reset, we are going to take a short break and we are going to come back and step into the current of the wind together. We'll be back in just a second. Healing is not a mystery, it is a practice. I wanted to help the community heal together, which is why I wrote my book, Rooted in Resilience, A Journey Towards Collective Healing. Rooted in Resilience offers tools that fit your life, from the Aya pause to simple rituals you can do at your kitchen table. You will find reflective prompts, language for hard seasons, and ways to invite your community into the journey. If you have carried grief, if you are unlearning hurry, if you want a gentle structure for growth, this book is for you. Get your copy today at malikambrown.com/store/p/rooted in resilience. Rooted in resilience. Breathe in, plant deep, and grow forward. Welcome back, family. We are going to get into talking about the wind as teacher. The wind has always been one of our greatest teachers. The reason being is it doesn't fight for direction, it moves where it's called. It doesn't ask permission to shift the landscape, it simply flows where it's supposed to go. Sometimes it can be soft, it can be subtle, a tender breeze that invites you to exhale, or it could invite you to unclench and to notice what you've been holding on to too long. Other times it's going to be forceful, it will be fierce, a storm that shakes trees and clears the air. Both of these types of actions are necessary. Sometimes we need it to be gentle, and sometimes we need it to shake us a little bit. Change often comes just like that. It comes unexpected, it comes uninvited, but it's always very intentional. It comes to move the debris, to realign what's been off course for us in our life, and sweep away what's no longer serving our growth. When we resist the wind, we are actually creating a drag. This is a spiritual friction that will wear us down over time because we're fighting against what is the natural occurrence in our life. When we surrender, however, though, we will discover the ease with which we are moving, even in the middle of things that are uncertain, even in the middle of things that are not fun to experience and things that are hard to withstand. We will be able to have an ease. In our culture, we often confuse control with stability. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up now is because we have to understand that being stable and trying to control a situation are not one and the same. We often believe that if we can just plan it right, if we could just pray enough, if we can just work hard enough, if we can stay vigilant, we will be able to avoid discomfort. That's not the way life works. That's not the way we are set up and designed to exist. The wind is a great reminder to us. Life doesn't wait for things that are certain. It moves and it asks us to move along with it. Don't fight against what life is trying to pull you through. So maybe the lesson in this would be simply you can't hold your breath while you're waiting for life to go back to how it was or waiting for life to be what you would like it to be. You have to have the ability to exhale into what's happening now and prepare yourself for your next. I want us to take another break, and then I want us to come back and talk about the psychology of surrender. I promise you that this is going to be something that's going to be very educational and very helpful for all of us. We will be back in just a second. Welcome back. And I want to make sure that I remind you, if you haven't already, to like, subscribe to the channel, and share this information with those around you, those who you think could use the encouragement, or those who you want to just pay it forward to. Make sure that you share this episode and the podcast as a whole. So let's get back into it. Let's talk about the psychology of surrender. So I wanted to start here when we talk about surrendering, what that actually means. Oftentimes we look at surrender as meaning giving up. But what we don't understand is from a nervous system standpoint, it is a way of coming home. When we are in situations that are uncertain, our body is the first thing that reacts. It is responding to the messages that our brain is giving it. Our shoulders will tense up. We can feel our jaws tighten. We can feel our breath shorten. It's the body's way of basically saying, I need to protect myself. What that is not weakness, it is a survival mechanism. But over time, living in that particular posture of defense becomes exhausting, and it also becomes deteriorating. Many of us carry what I like to call ancestral vigilance. It is very much a traumatic response historically that has been passed down to us because of the different life experiences that our people have had. It's the nervous system's way of always being on alert because for generations, our people have had to be. Even now, when we try to rest, our bodies sometimes don't know how to do that. And I can speak from a personal standpoint at this being my reality a lot of times. I desire to sit down, I desire to get rest. And for whatever reason, I don't have the ability to do that because I'm always in this unconscious state of hypervigilance. And I want us to understand this truth. Safety doesn't begin when everything is perfect. And I know that that's kind of a hard concept to embrace, But we have to understand that the safety begins when we start to breathe and we start to allow ourselves to relax and release the tension that we are holding. So when we do the breathing and you're inhaling deeply, you're basically teaching your body that it's safe for it to soften and not to be on guard. When we do the breathing and we exhale, you're telling your mind it's safe for it to release. Breath is basically our dialogue that is happening between our body and our spirit. So, the psychology of surrender is very important. It involves letting go of the need to control outcomes and accepting emotions without judgment and yielding to a larger reality that's beyond our direct power. It's not a defeatist act, it's not a defeatist mindset, but it's a release from the pressure of perfectionism. And I want you to hear that for those of us who deal with that perfectionism issue. We're releasing that pressure and we're shifting from fighting circumstances to accepting them. This psychological shift can really lead to emotional healing. It gives us a greater sense of peace and it's more aligned with our relationship that we have with ourselves and the world around us. So, here are some key psychological concepts and aspects of surrender that I want you to take away from today's episode. Letting go of control is basically acknowledging that many of the things are outside of your control, and that is central to the act of surrender. This can actually help reduce the pressure that we are feeling and allow for a more peaceful approach to the life changes that we are going to experience. Another key aspect is emotional acceptance. Surrendering to your emotion means experiencing them fully without trying to suppress or to change them. This can foster emotional healing and resilience. Accepting reality is another key concept. Sometimes it's hard for us to face the reality of what we are going through. It involves giving up the struggle to make what we are experiencing different than what it is, which can lead to remission, the remission of suffering. This also includes accepting that even doing your best may not always lead to a specific goal. And I know that can be very, very hard to accept. Another key concept or aspect of the psychology of surrender is the freedom from perfectionism. See, I just had a moment right there where I couldn't get it out, and the perfectionist in me wants to force it to be perfect. So, really, what we're saying is we are countering the need for flawlessness. And we have this ego driven drive to control every outcome. It allows for us to have a healthier relationship with success, but also with failure. And I don't like to call it failure, I like to call it lessons and opportunities. And that is because it's shifting our focus to the effort we put in and the intention behind what we were doing. And then I want to give two more final key aspects. This first one is releasing the internal resistance. We often will resist internally, and when we surrender to that resistance or surrender to resisting to the emotions, we will be able to feel the full range of emotions, things like fear and anger. Although, unfortunately, those are negative emotions, we do need to cycle through what we are feeling so that we can access the higher states of consciousness. So, as we stop resisting against it, and resisting against those emotions in the short term, it opens us up long term to those higher states and to live in a state of greater ease. And this final point that I want to give you is finding a different kind of power. Sometimes we will be fighting against what is happening in us and not realizing that surrender is not passive, it's actually an active choice. We are actively choosing to fight, and so surrender is us actively choosing to stop fighting. It is about relinquishing that compulsion that we have to control, and instead we're becoming open to whatever comes. We're finding a sense of serenity and a broader purpose. And when we do that, it allows us into the ability to grieve the things that need to be grieved and trust the things that need to be trusted. It opens up this path that allows us to process through things like grief, hope, trust, and it gives us this greater sense of peace and freedom. So I want to close out this segment by just simply saying surrender doesn't mean you stop caring. It simply means you stop gripping onto things that are not serving you. It is a quiet trust that even when the path shifts, you realize that you're still being guided. The more we practice surrender and the more we realize that peace isn't something we wait for, the more we understand that we are breathing and choosing to exist in the moment. So we're going to take another break and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about finding your voice because I feel like that this is a really key component when it comes to allowing the wind to be a powerful force in our life and being able to speak what we are talking about and what matters for us. We will take this break and we will be back in just a second. Healing is not a mystery, it is a practice. I wanted to help the community heal together, which is why I wrote my book, Rooted in Resilience, A Journey Towards Collective Healing. Rooted in Resilience offers tools that fit your life, from the Aya pause to simple rituals you can do at your kitchen table. You will find reflective prompts, language for hard seasons, and ways to invite your community into the journey. If you have carried grief, if you are unlearning hurry, if you want a gentle structure for growth, this book is for you. Get your copy today at MalikaMBrown.com/store/P/Rooted in Resilience. Rooted in Resilience. Breathe in, plant deep, and grow forward. Welcome back. We are going to get into talking about finding your voice. And so I think that this segment is going to be very, very important. And the reason why I say that is because oftentimes when we are going through challenges, the first thing we lose usually is our voice. We lose our ability to be able to speak up and to put language to what we need, what we're experiencing, and what we're going through. And so I want to connect this to the wind and the sound that it makes. We know that it carries sound. If you've ever been around a powerful wind force and you've listened to that howling, that wishing, that whirling sound that it makes, it lets you know how powerful wind is. The thing that I want to connect it to is how voices can be amplified, and the wind can be a way of carrying and amplifying your voice. Sometimes that sound that wind is making is calling us to amplify the sound of our voice and to speak our truths. Many of us have voices that were shaped in a survival mode and survival setting. We were in settings where we were taught to be quiet, be seen, not heard. We were taught to be polite and to be agreeable. And while being polite and being agreeable are not necessarily bad things, those are great qualities to have. What it has taught us is to make ourselves small for the comfort of other people. It has taught us to diminish and to minimize who we are as people instead of standing in our truth and boldly expressing and using our voice. We learned early that silence is protective. I've talked about this concept in previous episodes. And so we understand that we are told that you keep things to yourself, you keep things in the household, you keep things in the culture. What happens in the house stays in the house. And unfortunately, silence suffocates instead of protects. In situations like this, it doesn't add any value and it doesn't give you the support and the protection that we desire to have. When I think about voice, I think about the moments where I whispered a truth instead of speaking it out loud. So the way that could have looked like was I journaled it, or I prayed it, or I meditated it instead of really speaking it out loud and giving it voice and giving it wind. And sometimes it's necessary, most times it's necessary for us to speak our truths out loud. Some of these truths can be hard. Some of these will be hard truths for others to hear, but we need to give it language and we need to speak to it. And so maybe that's where we need to start. Maybe that's where it starts. Doesn't start with a megaphone, but maybe it's a whisper. So we start with whispering it and there's honesty. And then maybe that whisper leads into this boisterous current of courage that leads us through this journey. If we want to put this in the concept of a therapeutic relationship, it will be called emotional expression. We have lived in these experiences, and what we want to do is we want to have the act of giving sound to the things that we've lived through, and we don't want to silence them. Oftentimes, when I'm dealing with clients, they come into the therapeutic setting and they are often silencing their truths instead of speaking them out loud in a space that is safe. When we are in our spiritual walk, in our spiritual life, in spirituality, this is prayer. If we're talking about it from a healing work framework, we call this release, but it's necessary for us to give wind or us to give voice to what we are experiencing. When we name what is hurting us, when we name what we are experiencing, we are basically inviting breath back into our body, back into our experiencing. We are unfreezing what grief has been holding hostage. And so your voice doesn't have to be loud for it to be powerful. It just needs to be truthful. It just needs to be honest. So when we're speaking, we are breathing differently. Every time you speak, whatever that truth may be, you may do it in a circle. We just went through that experience of having a circle in person. It could be in prayer, it could be a song. Maybe you need to speak the truth in a journal. So maybe that is a way that you get it out. That is something that will clear the air around you and give you the space to continue to move forward on the journey as you're experiencing life. I want to take another short break. And as we always do in every episode, we are going to come back and we are going to do the Aya pause for this particular episode. Stay tuned and we will be back. Welcome back to the pod, resilient ones. Let's go into our Aya pause. This Aya pause is going to be called the breath of change. If it feels safe for you, I want you to close your eyes and lower your gaze. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold and exhale through your mouth. We're going to do that again. Deep breath in through your nose. And as you're doing it, you're inhaling peace. And I want you to hold and you are exhaling control. Now imagine yourself standing in an open field. The sky stretches wide above you and you can feel the wind on your face. As you feel that wind on your face, it's moving through your hair, it's wrapping gently around your shoulders. This wind is the breath of change, and it isn't here to knock you down. It's here to move you through and to remind you that you're alive. With each inhale, I want you to say silently, I am open to change. And with each exhale, I want you to say, I release what no longer serves me. Stay in this rhythm. Let the wind touch what's been tense. Feel your body relax. Let the breath move what's been blocked. Feel as the tension releases from your body. Now I want you to take one last deep breath in and exhale with gratitude. I want you to sit in this moment of peace and calm. We're going to take another break and we will be back for our next segment. Welcome back. And as always, you know that I have a communal or collective component to what we are going to be talking about. And so for this one, I want to call this the winds of collective change. So the wind itself doesn't belong to just one person. We've talked about it at the top of the episode and through the middle. A lot of what we were discussing was the individual things that we are experiencing. Now I want us to talk about it from the collective standpoint. The wind moves through all of us as a collective current. It's what connects our hearts, it connects us through history, it connects us with hope. That is also how collective healing works. When one of us exhales truth, when one of us speaks our truth, it gives the rest of us the ability to inhale courage. One of the things that I experienced with having my first circle event in person was that this concept was personified. When one person opened up, exhaled, and spoke their truth, it allowed others around them to inhale courage and be able to speak their individual truth as well. Look at the civil rights movement. Look at things like the wellness renaissance. All of these different things are ways where an individual spoke their truth in the collective and it sparked something amongst the rest of those people. That is the thing that we are seeing happening now. We are seeing this renaissance of collectivism happening within our culture, within our community, and it is a wind that is transforming. It is carrying us as a people through some pretty difficult and challenging times. We are aware of all of the things that are happening around us. We are aware of the government shutdown. We are aware of the lack of resources and all the different things that are on the horizon. But with us speaking our truth, with us being brave, we are empowering the others around us to also do the same. And it's giving this strength and this vitality and this energy that is kind of, we're being honest, juxtaposed or in opposition to what we are actually experiencing. What we are saying is we refuse to let fear, we're refusing to let uncertainty and all of these things steal our breath. So every generation has had its wind that it has allowed to push it through. For our ancestors, their wind was the wind of liberation. For us, I believe our wind right now is a wind of restoration. We are being called to breathe differently. We are being called to rest. We are being called to resist, but our resistance is not violent. Our resistance is not aggressive. We are resisting through gentleness. We're healing loudly, but we're living softly at the same time. When we are reclaiming our breath in this moment, we are reclaiming our agency, which is really important for us to do. We're reclaiming our voice, we're reclaiming our power. And when we reclaim rest, we are also reclaiming our worth. This wind of change is moving through the community. We see it in the classroom, we see it in the sanctuaries of our churches, we see it in the circles, we see it in the digital space. We are being called to gather together again, to remember that we're collectivists at our core. That is our collective power, that the collective healing is happening through the soil where our legacy grew from. I want to encourage you to know that you are part of the movement. Your presence, your listening, your breathing, all of it is contributing to the current of change that is happening in the atmosphere around us. I want us to take our last and final break, and then we're going to come back with our call to action and our closing reflections. Be back in just a second. Welcome welcome back. As we close today, let's take one final moment to come back to our breath. Come back to your breath. So I want you to feel your chest rise and fall. I want you to be aware consciously of your breathing. Notice how life keeps still moving through you. And I also want you to know that even when you stop to rest, that life is still moving in you. So it's okay to give yourself a space of rest. The wind within you is sacred. It connects you to your ancestors, it connects you to the power and the spirit within you, and those who breathe before you, and those who are going to come after you. So, in this next season of change, when it comes, this is what I want you to remember. You're not powerless in it, you are part of the actual movement itself. So, let breath remind you that surrender is not giving up, it's giving over and allowing the spirit to guide you into what's next. Your voice still matters, your exhale still carries power, your breath is your prayer. And I want you to also carry this affirmation with you. I move with the rhythm of change. My breath is my anchor and my prayer. I trust the direction of the wind. And so this week, I want you to take 5 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day. I know that sounds hard sometimes with how busy we are, but take 5 minutes each day to breathe with intention. Sit with the window open, looking outside. You can step outside if you can do that. I want you to let the air kiss your skin. And as you're doing it, I want you to whisper and remind yourself that you are still being carried. So I want to remind you all the places where you can listen to the IOA podcast. We are found on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. And if you want to get the visual and see the video, we are found on YouTube. I want you to join the community and grow with us in the IOA. And you can find us on Substack. And we are at the iowa.substack.com. That is an important place where we come together, we read and we reflect, and we communicate with each other. And I also provide for you additional resources outside of the podcast and as well as outside of the book, Rooted in Resilience. So that's my next reminder. If you do not have the book, this is my copy with Rooted in Resilience here for you. I want you to remember that this is what you will be using to stay in community with us. It's very important that you have the manual that gives you the guidance on this journey. And so you can find that on my website, malaikambrown.com /store/P/rooted in resilience. You can see it here on the screen. So, as always, I want to thank you for joining me for episode 10. It's hard to believe that we are already 10 episodes into this journey. And I want to remind you to allow the winds to carry you closer to your truth. And may your breath remind you that you are not broken, you are becoming. Until next week, have a great rest of your week.